You are listening to Confessions of a Counselor podcast. Here we will talk all things mental health in bite-sized chunks. Hello and welcome back to Confessions of a Counselor, your mental health podcast in bite-sized chunks. I'm your host, Janice, and in today's episode, I thought we would talk about the question, how do I know if my therapist is the right fit? How do I know if the person that I'm talking to is actually going to help me in the things that I'm struggling with? So let's jump right in. In terms of asking the question, is my therapist effective? I think there's many layers that we have to unpack with this. And I think if you're asking this question, if I'm wondering if my therapist is a good fit, if I'm not sure if my therapist is a good fit for me, I think that there's a lot more to unpack there than whether or not the therapist is effective, right? So how am I feeling in this session is the biggest question that I think we need to ask when determining if my therapist is effective. If I am feeling uncomfortable, if I feel like I can't share, if I don't feel like my therapist is responding in the way that feels good or comfortable to me, if I feel like they're taking up too much space or not enough space in the session, these are all things to consider when I am asking the question, is this therapist effective or not? So the biggest determining factor on whether or not therapy is effective is the relationship that I have with my therapist. And so in order to have effective therapy, we have to have a good relationship with our therapist. And so if I don't feel connected to my therapist in session, then I'm less likely to have effective therapy. And so I want to ask myself the question, what am I feeling in session? And then from there, is my therapist the right fit because they know what I'm talking about? Is my therapist the right fit because they're offering me tools and skills and space to be able to talk about the things that are hard for me? And I think another really big question is my therapist open to the feedback that I have to offer them? So one of the things that I talk about with my clients often is if something isn't working in session, you've got to let me know. I don't have anyone else to offer me feedback than the client themselves. So if something isn't working, if something isn't landing, if skills and tools aren't working for them, the only way that I'm going to know that is for the client to let me know. That two-way communication where I feel like I can offer my therapist feedback is also really important in terms of determining whether or not my therapist is effective for me or not. If my therapist is a good fit for me or not, is can I give them feedback? Can I say, hey, Janice, that's not working. That doesn't feel good. I don't like the way that you're giving that feedback. And we can work on that relationally. We can work on how does this feel? I think the big picture here is to recognize if I'm asking myself the question, is my therapist a good fit? I want to think about how am I feeling inside? I want to start to do that therapeutic work with my therapist. Hey, this isn't working. Or, hey, I'm not feeling great about this. Or, hey, we're starting to talk about something and I think this is outside of your scope of practice and maybe you're not able to help me with this. Or, hey, you only offer online therapy and I'd really like to have someone who's in person, or vice versa. So if we're asking the question, is this a good fit? First, I want to check in with why doesn't it feel like a good fit? Why am I asking or getting curious about if my therapist is the right fit for me? And can I offer that feedback? Can it start to be a conversation so that my therapist can show up differently? Or is it that I don't feel comfortable in the space? I don't feel like I'm getting the support that I need. The empathy that my therapist is offering isn't landing for me. Their style isn't working for me, or the type of therapy they're offering isn't working for me. And do I need to find someone else, or can we work on this together and start to build a better relationship with my therapist? So in terms of, is my therapist a good fit? I think the biggest question that we want to ask is, how do I feel in session? And do I think that I can improve this by talking to my therapist, or do we need to go our separate ways? I hope that you found that helpful. I hope that you can start to ask yourself that question of, is my therapist a good fit because I can work with them? Or is it something that I need to do differently and find a new therapist? Until next time, take care. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Confessions of a Counselor podcast is available anywhere you like to listen to your podcasts on Apple and Android. New episodes are released every Friday. If you enjoyed today's episode, please join the conversation. Leave a review or subscribe to the podcast hosted on Spotify. You can find all these details on janicelyons.com. Until next time, take care.